Sometimes you can have a really good person on paper, really good interview, bad hire.
Sure, I've seen both cases, I agree, yeah.
Something's going wrong there because the science of the process isn't quite panning out. You could literally toss a coin one way or the other. The big bottleneck here is position descriptions. If you ask them to cover all the points on it off memory, they're going to struggle. What you should be doing is not looking backwards at what people have. You should be looking at what they do with what they have. So you should be looking forwards. So what he suggests and what we use in our business as well is something called success profiles. You show them that. If they're a former hunter, they'll say, listen, you guys are fantastic, but that's not the job for me. And they rule themselves out. You dodge the bullet. So no one likes being sold to, and our BS radar has got pretty sharp on this. No one likes this. However, on the reverse, we all like to buy. At the moment we're being sold to, we're out.
Interesting.
So the trick is to create the situation where it's easy to buy.
In today's episode, we sit down with Tom Hitchcock. Tom is a TEDx speaker, creative problem solver, and serial entrepreneur. He is also known as a mistakeologist. Tom primarily specializes in career coaching for next-level achievement. He is the founder of Mr. Purple, where he provides business coaching for extreme results and personal change.
This is the first time we've mentioned that. So this is the first time openly we've become accountable. So I hope you do hold me accountable.
So, Tom, nice to meet you and thanks for coming on the podcast. You said you started your recruitment journey in Scotland, working for Manpower as a labour hire recruitment consultant, doing sort of 360, developing a new business and finding people, fulfilling as well. And then you came to Australia and you continued to work in the recruitment industry. You've got about 15 to 20 years experience in recruitment. It's a very interesting topic for me as a leader, be able to hire the best people possible for your business at the time is key to any CEO, to any division, to any, hiring manager in a sense. So let's see if I can pick your brain for me and the audience to learn some things that you've learned about recruiting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So some of the roles, I always like to work on real examples. So right now we've just hired a full-time recruiter, 6 months contract starting tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're going to be focused on what we call the revenue team, BDMs and account managers, account executives. So if you look back from your own experiences with the agencies, and if we were to, a couple of the roles that are key in a recruitment business, the business development person and the account manager, so to speak, at least this is how I see it. This is the person that's sort of working across the organisation with different hiring managers to find or to be able to acquire more vacancies to fill. How do you identify if you were to be recruiting for a BDM role? What do you look for a solid, good hunter BDM? What are some of the traits that you believe are so unique to any other role, to any other person?
A BDM, there's two types of BDMs, as you quite rightly pointed out. You've got the account management and you've got the one that's more of a hunter. So you've got the hunter versus a farmer. We do find as time goes on, the people that were previously hunters eventually become a farmer. It's time spent, their energy's changed. They feel that they're more interested in maintaining the relationships than acquiring the relationships. But what I've found, and this is probably something that might be quite pertinent for you in your current hiring right now, is there's a tool that you can use which will determine whether you have a hunter or a farmer straight away. Have you heard of a gentleman called Lou Adler?
No.
Okay, so Lou Adler, he's a very famous recruiter over in the States, and he wrote a book called Performance-Based Hiring.
Okay.
Hire with your head. Okay, so I highly recommend yourself, all your listeners, to read that book.
Thank you.
And part of what he did in that book, he started to look at the different steps in recruitment. So let's say, depending who you talk to, there's 13 steps, okay? Sometimes you can have a really good person on paper, really good reference check, really good interview, bad hire. And the reverse, not the best CV, didn't quite nail the interview, but we took a gamble on them and they're fantastic.
Sure. I've seen both cases. I agree. Yeah.
Exactly.
So
something's going wrong there because the science of the process isn't quite panning out. You could literally toss a coin one way or the other on that basis. What he found in his research is the big bottleneck here is position descriptions. Okay. So if you think of the position descriptions you've seen before, you may have yourself, they can be quite wordy, quite lengthy.
Sure.
Okay. A nice solid 2-3 page PDF. If you ask that person, once they start 6 months, 12 months, 18 months down the line, what's on that position description, they'll struggle to go word for word, that's for sure.
Sorry, we're asking the person who? The person that's
hired. So your
hired?
team, your existing team.
They were hired and they've been quite successful. They've made it for 6 months.
Either or. So we'll just focus on the position description for a moment. Okay. If you was to ask most people, if any of your listeners who have a position description attached to their job,
Sure.
if you ask them to cover all the points on it off memory, they're going to struggle. Okay?
Got it.
So that's one thing that's wrong with it. The second thing, and the most pertinent part of it, is that it looks backwards. Okay, so you're looking for someone with 5 years experience of this, exposure to that market, this software, et cetera, et cetera. And so people could tick all those boxes. Okay. However, what you should be doing is not looking backwards at what people have. You should be looking at what they do with what they have. Okay. So you should be looking forwards. So what he suggests and what we use in our business as well is something called success profiles. Okay. So what we do is we look at the 12 months in advance. So if you were successful in this job as a BDM, for example, if you're successful as a BDM in our business in 12 months' time, this is what would have happened.
Is that when we say, for example, what does success mean for you in this job? Is that what we're talking about here?
Close, very close, but it's company driven. Okay, so if you've got a BDM and you say, like, okay, if you're coming on as a BDM and in 12 months' time you've been promoted as a senior BDM, okay, team leader or whatever, this is what that would have looked like, and this is what you would have achieved, and step by step to get there.
That journey for you for the next 12 months, what it's going to be like,
what it looks like
for you to be successful. Yeah, I think I was sort of talking about the same thing, but maybe I've explained it in the wrong way. I confused you, but I totally agree with you.
I must be easily confused.
No, absolutely not. You're too kind. No, I agree with you, man.
So what's interesting here? So if you get this and you replace your position description with this document, okay, that good person on paper that you're really keen to interview and hire, you show them that. If they're a former hunter come farmer, they'll say, listen, you guys are fantastic, but that's not the job for me. And they rule themselves out. You dodged a bullet. Whereas the person you're 50-50 on, they read that and they'll say, brilliant, Anwar, that's exactly what I'm about. That's me. I'm your man. I'm your woman, whatever.
Sure.
Okay.
So that job description, let's change the title to it. You know what I like to call that? I like to have a document that's sort of more overarching. Let's call it the playbook.
Yep. Okay.
And in that playbook, we can talk about the perfect past experiences, but also we can talk about what would the perfect 12 months look like in this role.
Yes.
I love that. Yes. This is actually what I'm doing. This person starting tomorrow, he's aware that's part of his job. As he's recruiting, he's helping build the playbook for those roles.
Yes, perfect. And that's if you have that at the point of decision making on both parties, then your chances of success go through the roof. And the nice thing about it, it goes beyond the position description. It becomes an appraisal document. It becomes an interview document. You can interview on it.
Totally
agree. It becomes
agree.
a career contract. So
your
they
performance review will work around it, which is what you just said, appraisal. Totally agree with you.
Yep, and it's there. And you usually have 2 or 3 objectives in there because it's quite refined. They never forget what they're doing. You ask them a year down the line as what the equivalent of position description is, what the dot points are. They're going to know it, okay? Then you can measure success. You can't do that before.
Yeah. I want to discuss with you, this is a really interesting segue into something I've learned from another HR lady that was incredible. Chloe had hosted her on a podcast as well. She started as in a recruitment business, a fairly small recruitment business, under 20 people. She was hired to be the learning and development person. And she was quite surprised, such a small business, that they would hire a full-time person doing that. But nevertheless, if we just fast forward this a little bit, she's now sort of the people and culture manager. And I was talking to her about to teach me about culture, how to build culture, what is culture and how to build culture. And I was quite surprised to know that culture isn't airy-fairy stuff. It's actually quite substantial things, as in a very quantitative things, such as the job description, that clarity, which is that playbook that we talked about, the clarity to make sure, as you put it rightly, you said, this becomes the same document you use for the purpose of going forward performance reviews. And the person writing the ad will work off it. The person interviewing will work off it. The person doing the appraisal will work off it. It becomes that, it creates that clarity. And then another person I've hosted said something along the line, maybe you can remember this better, something along the line of, he said to me, clarity is kindness, and then there's the opposite, non-clarity is something else. I thought like, whoa. So yeah, can you speak to that, the whole effect on such a playbook, or that thing that you talked about, what success would look like in the next 12 months in this role? How does it help creating a solid culture?
So I want to touch on one thing there, what you said, which is culture as a word itself, because that's a can of worms. Okay, it's a double-edged sword. Yes, you get culture right, absolutely fantastic. You misunderstand it, then it's a train wreck. And I talked to this on the basis of, as a client would give us some feedback, or candidate, the culture fit wasn't right. That doesn't tell us anything because of how big the term is. It's an excuse. It's a pointing of the finger. Okay. What you need to do is a lot more pragmatic than that, and actually really refine it, okay, and find out actually they're just micromanaging, or they're just doing this, or they're just doing that, okay? And that's what people, when they label something culture, they're missing a trick of really solving the problem. It's just like saying, the car's not working, great, well, was it the fuel pump, was it this, was it that? You need to really get into the specifics of it to be able to fix it.
Do you feel this is a topic you can talk about, culture?
Yeah, I think so.
I'd love to learn from you if that's. I just didn't know that you've dabbled in that area.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what is culture then? I mean, if you were to can you create a document for a company? Can you be hired by a company for a month or two and you create a document called the culture? And what, if that's the case, what would be the top 3 most important things in that document, the 3 sections?
Okay, so it's going to be something that never used to exist when I started my career.
Okay.
I don't know how old you are, but let's roll back some years here.
I'm 26 next year.
It's a good paper round, eh? I remember when companies didn't have values. Okay, maybe some did, but many didn't.
No, I agree with that. Yeah.
If we think back, now almost every company does. It's on their website. In the breakout area, they've got integrity usually written on the wall when people are bitching about each other. You know, the irony. And there's a disparity. Okay, so let's talk to a corporation. So they've got 4 big values, for example, that they talk about. Those values are not the same throughout the whole business. They're different location to location. They're different department to department. They're different from team to team, manager to manager. You walk into different places, they've got a different look and feel. So the values don't align to what they're advertising, and that's where the big mistake is, okay? However, if you refine your values, okay, so they're not just on the wall, they're not just on the website, they're not just on the document, okay? They're a part of the process in everything you do. So the success profile is a really good example. 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. This is what we're doing, and this is our cadence. This is how we're checking. Are we living and breathing the values which identify us internally and externally? Okay. If that's part of the process, and I know what you do with your software, this can easily be embedded into that, so that there's stop checks for honesty if that's there. If that's their value, it's constantly there, you're living and breathing it, then people, the values they've come to join, they're living and breathing, okay? There's another layer to this as well. So the values that you and I would say we have, if we were to pick each other's brains right now, usually are a little bit different to our dispositional beliefs, okay? So our deep down values, the ones that are really hard to shift, most people are not really in tune with those. They don't really know themselves. I'd like to think I'm full of integrity. Integrity is a really good example. Okay, so people say, yeah, I've got bags of integrity, or I've got a growth mindset.
Okay.
But they'll be the first person to complain or gossip or moan or do things that are not so great, or go with a closed mindset on a day-to-day basis because they're doing the same thing again and again, for example. So they're almost like, I'd like to think that's me, but it's not necessarily me. Okay, The dispositional beliefs, when you go deep down, they're the things that are not shifting. That's really Anwar. That's really Tom. Now, here's where the magic happens. If you can get your values for the company matched up to someone's dispositional beliefs, okay, say it is integrity, say it is positivity, I'm just making words up now.
Sure, yeah.
What happens is the staff work in a flow state, because when you're living and breathing to your dispositional beliefs, you're not working a day.
So this is awesome. Thank you. Can I go back to my question? Simplify it for me. Is there people who have got they invest in the so-called culture, meaning they invest resources and time and money into building a culture. So that's for novice people who could be great leaders and great professionals, but they haven't dabbled with culture much. Is it accurate that those companies who invest in culture, they end up having a document called the culture?
Yep.
And if that's the case, what would be the three things that would be in it, the three sections? What would that be made of? What's the culture document? What is culture, in other words?
Okay, all right. So the way I would go through this is very similar to the EOS methodology in the business coaching world, okay? And that'd be your vision.
What's EOS?
Entrepreneur Operating System.
Okay.
So more in the world, your world, startup, scale up, small to medium enterprise. That's the space for that. They talk and we talk about the vision, mission, and values. So the values we've already touched on, and they're very important to how you go about your day to day. But people need to buy into your vision. They need to know where you're going, what your North Star is, where you're pointing, what they're signing up for, what they're playing a part in. And then understanding the mission is the steps in which you take to get there.
So what are the three sections? Mission is the first one?
Vision would be the precipice. That's your big moonshot, if you like.
I understand what that is. Yeah, cool. And mission
is the one that sits below it. This is what you do day to day to get there.
Below vision.
Yes.
Meaning under vision, not a separate section.
It would be a separate section, but they communicate to each other.
Sure.
Okay,
vision and mission. Okay, what's the third one?
And the third one be your values.
The things that we must maintain as we pursue that mission.
It's your DNA. It's what makes you different to your competitors.
Yeah, the way I've described it is the things that we must maintain, such as integrity, in our pursuit of the mission, in our pursuit of the vision. So because you can get there doing dodgy stuff, you can get there with a great deal of integrity. So the things that we must maintain as we are on our mission.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
I like
the parameters.
That. It makes sense and why it's number 3.
Yes. So that's we talk about this quite a bit. We work with people, companies on their vision and mission specifically, because that takes quite a bit of time to get that refined and to be accurate. So it's not just white noise. It has to be something tangible. Yeah. Something that's realistic.
You're saying you'd recommend if anybody want to do the minimum investment into building a culture, the minimum investment, a hack job. At a minimum, create a document that has got at least 1 page for each of these sections, 3 pages. The minimum possible you got to do that.
Absolutely.
And make sure you share it with every employee and you role play it. You have meetings to go through it and get feedback from people and you refine those sections. If you do that at a minimum, not a huge investment, you've done something at least.
It's every step. So if you go off that basis, it's part of your interview process. So what did you think of our vision? Have you got any thoughts? Tell us about your beliefs and your values and how it marries up and give us an example of. Yeah. So it's there.
So that's not a huge investment. Any company can do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people, including me, we want to start to talk about culture. My God, we're looking at a huge investment. We've got to hire someone with $250,000 package first of all, and we've got to make all kind of extra investment in time and money for a leadership team and for everyone. So it really can be done, quite cost effectively.
Here's a good example for you. So we had a client who had, I think, about 9 values, and they're about to have a team training day, et cetera, far too many values. Some of them contradicted each other, some were doubled up. It was a mess. We got it down to 3 or 4. Okay.
You recommend not to go beyond 5 in the values?
Yeah, it kind of depends what they are and what business is. So it's not one size fits all. But if you do too many, you're going to forget them, Okay. You dilute it somewhat.
I'm going to write it down. It's good advice, actually.
But when they changed their values to something that are more accurately reflecting the organisation, they then got the team in and they had clinicians. So it's a health business. They had 7 companies, a group of them. They got all the teams together, okay, and they said, right, these are our new values, what we're going to live and breathe by. Where can you build this into the processes and what you do day to day? So if you've got a referral, you've got a cross-sell, you've got whatever, where can you build this in? So the team built the system process themselves. They were involved with it. So the buy-in was absolute because they created it. They're not going to say, actually, too much change, don't agree with this.
Yeah.
They've made it.
Yeah.
You know, it's empowering to have them heard and listened to.
You know what? That was a really solid advice, man. Thank you. I feel that was really, really interesting. All right. Thank you. Now, let's go back to the traits of a BDM versus the trait of an account manager. And you said you used the example of a hunter versus a gatherer or farmer.
Yes.
So how do you identify a hunter? How do you identify a solid BDM that you can feel they're going to kill it?
So my point of identification of preference would be the success profile, because that does filter it out specifically. However, there are traits. There's visible traits. There's the people that, say, for example, you've applied for a BDM role, they've had an interview, they're following up with you. They're following up with you the right way, not too desperate, just the right time frames, the right tone of voice, and they're showing that there's a bit of a rainmaker in them. They're willing to make things happen and go above and beyond. There's a bit of hustle in them. They can think on their feet. They can use their initiative. They're not scared to do so. They're the ones that tend to lean into more the hunter side of it. The farmer will sit back and wait. They'll let the relationship take its course, and if it's right for them, it's right for them, and nurture it accordingly.
We, in a B2B business like ours, and the process, it could take 3 to 12 months to 18 months. It's and multi-stakeholders involved. When our BDMs are engaged within a company, let's say 500 employee company or 1,000 employee company, you have 3-4 different stakeholders, leaders that need to approve this: the director of HR, the CIO, etc. And the process takes time and all that. So the people that we tend to hire are the people that focus on. And honesty and integrity is the number one that we look for, as opposed to people that just want to push solution at people. They won't even make it through the first interview when we feel this is their approach and stuff. So we like people that they are able to articulate values. They're able to start with, able to understand the problem, to be able to get people, the clients, the prospects, to open up to them and explain what the pain points are. That is the first. If they can't do this right, nothing's going to work from there. They've got to start. This is the foundational piece to every successful deal. So people with high integrity, there's no way to shortcut this. If you don't have high integrity, no one's going to open up. People will spot that you're just a pushy salesperson. They pretend they're telling you stuff. They're not going to tell you the full story, and they're going to stop talking to you very soon.
Yes.
So what can you talk about that? Is there, like, in the sales world, in your world, when maybe you were recruiting for salespeople, is there a way to describe that? Is there like a category of salespeople? How do you see what that is compared to other styles of selling? We
talk about the stereotype of a salesperson, and we run an exercise where we get 2 people to come up, one to draw, one to write, and there'll be an audience, and they'll say what the characterizations.
I'm sorry, I missed that. One to draw, did you say?
One to draw, one to write. Okay, so if you can imagine a room full of people. Okay, we're talking about what the stereotype of a salesperson is, and you get yourself and someone else up. You've got 2 pens, one writes the word, the other one draws the person. Okay, and we create what the stereotypical salesperson is, and it's a liar, it's fake, it's a constant smile, etc., etc. And there's a certain look, there's a certain image that we think of, and everybody picks that same image, and none of us like it. Okay,
I'm still missing the exercise. The draw and the like. I'm really sorry. Can you explain it to the audience and to me? What are we talking about here?
Okay, so what I'm trying to... Okay, so we run an exercise.
Sure.
Say there's a group of 50 people, for example.
As in candidates?
Just general people. Anything workshop, it's just there's just 50 people.
Sure.
Okay. We would run an exercise for people to identify what the stereotype of a salesperson is. We'll get 2 volunteers from the audience, 2 pens. on a board, okay? One person would write the words that the audience would shout out. So if it's sleazy, if it's a liar, if it's fake, they'd write those words. The other person with them would draw that person based on how they're describing what that person looks like. The point being, the stereotype of salesperson is very defined. It always comes up identical every time, okay? The characteristics, the pushiness, and everything that you've just mentioned, okay? And what this points to is no one likes being sold to, okay? You walk into a designer shop, it's very uncomfortable when they get on top of you. But whereas you go to the mid-range shops, do you want any help, sir? I'll find you if I need you. And you stay, okay? So no one likes being sold to.
Yes.
And our BS radar has got pretty sharp on this.
Yeah.
No one likes this. However, on the reverse, we all like to buy.
Sure.
We all like to purchase. We all like the solution, the product, the service that we actually wanted. So we like to buy, but the moment we're being sold to, we're out.
Interesting.
So the trick is to create the situation where it's easy to buy, okay? That works with trust. That works with a relationship. That works when the person that you're hoping is a prospective customer feels you're being listened to, okay? Yeah. They don't want to hear about why your business, why your company name, or your picture of voice. They're not interested in that. They're interested in what's in it for them. And the only way you're going to know that is by knowing them, their problems, their situations, their motivations, how we can generally help them, and then just cherry pick exactly what they need. If you can help them, you can't always help. Sometimes you can say, absolutely, you know what, this bit isn't right for you. I can recommend a different route, and that's nice, you know. That's what a good salesperson does. That's what a good consultant does. That's what we do
here,
That's what
100%.
a good consultant does. And that still would be that hunter. The hunter will create more of those situations, more of those positions where people are able to air their conversations. And you know, you have a meeting with a prospective client for the first time, they're not necessarily going to tell you all the intricacies, the nuances of their problems.
One layer at a time.
So you need to, there's an air of vulnerability to get, actually, you know what, we're really not happy with this, but I trust you enough to share that with you with the hope you might have a solution for me. It takes time to get to that point, to get past the superficial.
No, it makes sense. That was really good information in the context of the question. I appreciate that. Thank you, Tom.
I'll get you to that workshop next time. We'll get you up there drawing the stereotypes.
I would love to do that. I haven't been part of something like that. Yeah, that would be great.
It's fun. And it just shows our perceptions of society and what have you. And for me, I think it's such a shame that sales is a muddy word out there.
Got so many negative connotations, unfortunately.
It really does. But if you think about it, we can't be business owners. We can't have so many roles within businesses.
The world doesn't run
without those skills.
The world stops without salespeople.
As long as you're making friends, you're doing sales. Yeah. And we all like to have friends.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. Okay. And so if we go back to recruitment and your experience in recruitment, what's the difference between an internal recruiter and an agency recruiter? Is there any difference?
So an internal recruiter I'll classify as what we call a 180. So traditionally speaking, a full recruiter is what we call a 360.
Sure.
Okay, which is where I started early in my career, and it really was a 360. So we're doing a bit more above and beyond. What that looks like is you're running a business within a business. It's a little micro business within an organisation. So you're responsible for the finding, the sourcing, the closing, the moving, the customer satisfaction. B2C, B2B, you're being candidates and clients. So doing the whole thing, okay, which is why it generally takes a certain type of person to do that whole thing, okay. Internal, you've cut half that out, okay. And talking to your types of hunter and farmer, you'll find they tend to be a bit more of a farmer, okay, because they don't need to go and find the jobs. They're there. They've got the internal stakeholders. They've got their own challenges, and they're still dealing with the candidates. So
am I correct? What you're saying is what's missing between the 180 and the 360 is the business development to find the client. But in this case, you don't need to find a client. You are working for the client, so to speak, already. You just want to focus on the rest of the situation, which is talking to those hiring managers, understand that job description, that success profile, build those, make sure you're really comfortable, the strategy for that person. That's what I really love about when I'm involved in recruitment. I love that part of saying, who should we go after? In the sense where that strongest synergy between this person who is doing this right now, where potentially they would like to be, and can we be this company that creates that path for them, which is that success profile.
Yes.
So, for example, we go, look, for an account manager who's promoting an HR system, if we go after HR folks, we need them to be commercially savvy. We need them to have this kind of, extrovert profile where they are able to pitch and present and chair a meeting with 10 different stakeholders and present the product and stuff. You need all that. But at the same time, when you think about what's in it for them, right, as an HR person, we help them to become a proper consultant, because they're going to be working with 30, 40, 50 different companies in different industries, learning about these different models, building those relationships. So if they want to, after 5 years, open their own HR consultancy, that would be a great path for them.
Yes.
We make them that ready-to-go consultant.
Yeah.
That's how I love building those profiles, building those and pitching it to them like that. And we put that in the ad. This is where you could become. I love that part, that strategy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I like that. It's just an element of stepping stone. It's, you're sort of snowballing your skills acquisition. So as you go, you're acquiring more and more and more. And this is where this could take you. And we're just playing our part. And we're going to obviously have our benefit whilst we're custodians, if you like.
Of course. I love that part. And so, the reason I mentioned that, I'm sorry, I might have gone on a tangent a little bit. We were talking about the internal recruiter. I mean, that's the piece they need to be involved in. This is where the success starts. Back to your full credit, it's that success profile.
Yeah.
What I've just said is really part of that, you know? So you build that. So that person needs to have the skills to be able to have those meaningful, critical conversations with all the right stakeholders, the line managers, so to speak, in the agency terms, the line managers where they are recruiting, who they're recruiting for, to build that perfect strategy. I'll call it strategy, the playbook, the success profile, whatever you want to call it, before they start to do anything.
Yes.
And then they need to have that talent of conveying the message, writing the ad, and of course that people's skills to be able to jump on calls. People want to take a call, happy to talk to you and tell you what they're doing and what they want to do with their life and whatever. I mean, it is a beautiful role, isn't it?
It is. It's very personable. And I think the thing that you can't desensitize yourself to, and I think you're attuned to this yourself, is your biggest investment in your life is your career.
Absolutely.
Not your house, not your Ferrari if you ever own one.
Your
lifestyle, is your career. Man. You want a return investment every year. Okay, you want to, you want it to grow. You want it to increase. Time, effort, money, the whole lot. Okay, and if we remember that when we're dealing with people with their job applications and we're approaching them and we're talking to them about their investments. Okay, they're going to keep the cards close to their chest. They're going to make an informed and educated decision. It's a big deal. And if we're personable in that manner, then we do it the right way. We're treating people with the respect they deserve.
Yeah. It really is fascinating. It would be something I would do if I was not doing this as a CEO, which is, I love this job. But, part of why I love it is that diversity. You're involved in the recruitment strategy, you're involved in the marketing, you're involved in the product. I mean, this is why I love my role. But that's what really makes me continue to be so motivated and driven, is that learning around that. But certainly the whole career development thing, that org design, position design is such a fascinating thing.
Well, it's a moving target. It's evolving all the time. What we were doing 20 years ago is certainly not doing now. And to your point, with that diversification and that and what have you, we're learning something new every single day from every single person if we are alert to it.
Yeah,
it's wonderful. It really is.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can agree more with you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, one more thing that you might want to share with myself and the audience about what you've learned in your 15 years in recruitment. 15 plus, I should say.
I'm going to share something. This is probably more for the recruiters out there, just in retrospect.
Sure.
I know we spoke about this very briefly earlier, and because there's so many lessons there if we think about what we learn every day. But also, if you are a client and you're looking to take on a recruiter, try to keep this as a gauge for yourself, because this determines whether which pile you put this recruiter on. Okay, so in my observations,
I'm sorry. So far, I haven't understood what you meant. Just to let you know. But yeah,
I'll explain myself.
Yeah, thank you.
I talk in riddles sometimes.
No. This is one layer of the onion at a time. I just wanted to keep you in touch with where I'm at.
So, in my observations in my career, especially working for other people, I've always found there's two types of recruiters, very, very clearly defined. Okay. You got recruiter number one. Okay, they're doing really good billings. They're commercially sound. Okay, and they've got two motivating factors when they make a placement. Okay, so when they have some success. Number one is what their commission or bonus is,
Sure.
which is fair enough. They've earned it.
Sure.
Then number two is the impact for the clients and the candidates.
Sure.
Okay, it's not far behind it.
Sure.
They're happy for both.
Sure.
Okay, but it's the financials first. Then you got recruitment consultant number two, where number one, they care about the outcome for the company and the candidate. That's what they've got a real kick out of. And very closely behind is their commission and bonus.
Those priorities, they've just been flipped. 1 and 2, 2 and 1, yeah.
And it's almost talking to your heart or head, you know. That latter one where they're heart-led and they really get, okay, this client's been really struggling with this role. We know how much it's holding that department back, et cetera, and we've found that person when they didn't think it was possible. And that candidate who is really struggling to get in front of the right people, they didn't know his company existed, and we've made this happen just in time for Christmas and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
That one is the one that you want on your side, the one that leads with their heart. Okay, they've earned their wage, their bonuses, their commissions, and their wages. Well, same as the other one. There's no real difference there. But it's what comes first. Okay, and if you are that recruiter out there, you'll know which one you are, and it's still okay to be both. You can still be.
So how do you get
successful.
this out of people?
Say again?
So if I'm hiring for a recruiter, which is we hired, and we're very happy with the gentleman starting tomorrow, as I mentioned, but let's say I'm interviewing for a recruiter in the future, how do you get this information out of someone?
I would get more out of a behavioural interview with questions and scenarios as to what motivated them, what motivates them.
Got it.
If you had an either-or situation, which way would you go, especially when you talk outside of industry? So if we make an example of the sales training, for example, and we need to learn how to sell a SaaS product, brilliant. We'll use an example outside of SaaS, in your social life, in your relationships, to reinforce the mechanisms that you're going to learn so they can attach it to that, and then you remember it back into what you're doing. Okay, so anything that's external, and then you should be able to pick up what you're after. I think I spoke in riddles again there for you.
No. I think I got it. That's really interesting. If you feel you want to clarify it by any means, but it's definitely an interesting point. Interesting point. Have another go at it, maybe another angle or something. So we're talking about you're giving someone, a hiring manager in a company who's hiring a recruiter, some tools for them to identify that recruiter they're trying to hire. Is money the number one priority, or is it really doing a great job for the company and the candidate is number one, the priority for them? And you're giving them a tool for them to assess if this person is this recruiter or this recruiter.
Yep.
And that would be?
Yeah, so it'd be back to situational or behavioural questions. So you can put sets of circumstances to them so they can pick which way to go, and you can identify in a slightly left field, off topic way.
So is that like psychometric assessments or something? Or
so I would also recommend those. So we've got some pretty good psychometric and cognitive competency assessments that we use, and what it does when it determines what your strengths and weaknesses are, it will actually spit out interview questions based on the strengths and weaknesses. So you can actually dig it a bit deeper, and you'll either get them flying in flow mode, or they'll be on the back foot a little bit, and you start to see the real version of that individual as well.
Okay, thank you. No, that makes sense. Yeah, I thought it was the case. I just want to make sure because it is an interesting point. So thanks for sharing. Okay, man. You said good maybe segue into a topic that's you're passionate about at the moment. You're trying to put together a business, I should say an interesting business model, whereby, correct me on that, and I'll give you the microphone in a sec for you to take it from there. But it's, from what I understood, you're trying to put together a business model whereby it's a recruitment business, recruitment agency business, if you want to call it, recruitment business, where all the employees do have some kind of disabilities, okay? And you're, it still needs to clearly survive. It is non-for-profit eventually, so you're going to use whatever profit you make, which you need to make profit to survive, otherwise you go broke. But whatever profit you make, whether it's $1 or $1 million, you're going to reinvest it somehow.
Yes.
Somehow, whether the growth of the business or donate money to charities, who knows. But nevertheless, non-for-profit, based on the model that you believe you should be able to build a solid recruitment business that you can be super proud of, and where every person in that business, every employee is someone with some degree of disabilities. Talk to us about that.
Precisely, and this definitely is a passion place. This has been a slow burn. When I first come up with the idea and I saw the problems with the perception of people with disabilities in the workforce and knowing I could probably help, I spoke to some of my peers in the world of recruitment. They all told me I was crazy. It can't work. Only certain people are good enough to be a recruitment consultant. And we're talking about the traits earlier.
Yeah.
Okay. I disagreed, and I saw some value to this. But I also saw there's the likes of you and I who are not on the NDIS, so we're not classified under that scheme as being disabled, speaking to companies, asking them to take people with disabilities. Okay. And it's a tough gig. Okay, there's quota hires to this, there's supported wages to encourage this, but companies have their own hiring agenda, and if it doesn't tick the box, it's not their preference. Okay, so it's really difficult. So it isn't really solving the problem. So what we decided to do is we decided to set up Australia's very first recruitment agency. Okay, entirely run by people with disabilities. Okay.
I'm going to ask you a question that probably everybody's thinking about. People with disabilities, do they expect to be paid the same kind of money? Do you expect them to pay the market rate, or maybe they'd be discounted because you're going to create an environment that works for them?
So the best way to look at this is just treat it as a recruitment agency like any other recruitment agency.
I respect that. I respect that.
It's going to be same.
Same?
Yep, exactly, by design, because we want to prove to the world of work its commerciality. Okay, because if we can make this work, then it should get the attention of those hiring managers that have overlooked these people. Okay, and need the perceptions realigned. Okay, now,
but what I mean is, it's all about the value. It's about value, you know. So, for example, some disabilities you might need to make sure they can only work for 5 hours a day.
Yes.
And so, it needs to be paid based on 5 hours a day.
Absolutely.
Which is, what would that be, roughly 65% of an full-time equivalent, do you know what I mean? Yeah. Based on whatever the market rate is. So it's not like you're paying them less. If you're going to make it work, certain disabilities, it means that it might well be, from the remuneration point of view, sort of all factored in to make sure it's fair.
Yeah.
So, but I understand what you mean. The point that what's more important here that you want to convey is it needs to stand on its own feet. It needs to be as competitive as anything else for you to prove the point that you're trying to prove. And I respect that very much. And
it's quite a complex challenge. It's a big challenge that we're addressing, and anything that's first in, best dressed is we're venturing into the world of the unknown. Talking to your point there, though, one system that we're doing with this to make it work is we're setting it up as a buddy system. So the recruiters would work in little teams of 2.
I like that.
Okay. They'll do half a week each.
We call that in the programming world power programming.
There we are. Power programming it is then. And so they split their week up. They're accountable to each other. But more importantly, the skill sets would differ. Okay, so one would be a little bit more personable, outgoing, loves chatting to people. And the other one would be more database, admin, attention to detail related. And they'll be accountable to each other so they can achieve the outcomes that we need.
Right.
Okay,
complementing the skills, yeah?
You got it. And if you think, a lot of the time these people haven't had sustained employment at all, so it's a shock to the system to go anything full-time. So this helps them work their way back into the world of work.
Do you feel the post-COVID world of working from home is going to aid you in building that model or not?
No, because what we've got an office in Norwest where we're partnering up with a fantastic charity there that already has an infrastructure in place that we can plug into. the people with disabilities, when they first come in, they'll probably have the support workers with them initially. So we need to factor in how comfortable they are with the transport.
No hybrid at all?
So, no, not in this one. Not in this one.
Some disabilities, it might be advantage for that person to be in a comfortable environment that costs a lot of money to build.
Yes.
And yet their cognitive is off the chart that you can take full advantage of. Why wouldn't you consider that?
We will consider it, but not day one.
Okay.
Okay, so the whole idea is we want to keep a very close eye on what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah,
when the moods and changes keep
Initial
paid, they've got a
induction
support
period.
network there.
Sure.
And they feel that they can belong, they're part of something and what have you. In this case, they won't be doing the mundane work, which they tend to be used to, which is sticking in warehouses and stacking shelves and all the stuff behind the scenes.
It's rework.
We'll be giving them stuff where they can meet clients, they can meet candidates, they can vet, they can be involved, they can have purpose, they can have bonus. And most importantly of all, they can have healthy stress. Okay? And I mean that because, and I'm not talking about stress, I'm talking about healthy stress. We don't want that. We don't want a toxic situation. We all have healthy stress in our day-to-day, and we don't realise how much of a privilege it is to experience that. And healthy stress, by definition, is us, the situation we're in, getting 5% more out of us than what we would have done ourselves. I really need to do this. That's wonderful. We're growing, we're developing. And I want them to experience that, which we take for granted. Okay? That's for the people with disabilities themselves. But the second part of it is it has a social impact component. So all the clients that would only ever take calls from people in this normal agency world that we know, when we start to deliver the people with disabilities, by them doing the work that they don't think they're capable of doing, we will change their perceptions of people with disabilities by showing, by doing. Okay? So that eventually we'll take a call from a client that we've filled some roles with, and they come back to us and say, hey, these people are fantastic. Where can I find some? And that's where we start to break down those barriers, break down those perceptions. So that's where my passion plays.
That's really phenomenal. I think it's an amazing mission to be on. I wish you luck. Clearly, there's a lot of risk in it, like any business.
Yeah.
Gosh, opening a corner store we used to take for granted is a huge risk these days. But what an awesome mission that is worth, having a go at, worth that risk, worth your time investment and your passion and stuff.
Thank you.
It would be incredible if you can pull it off.
Yes, we are very confident of doing so.
Yeah.
We don't want to drip in and drip back out. We really want to make it work. We know it's an Australian first because we had this validated. Yep. We haven't found it anywhere else in the world. It could be a world first.
And mental, absolutely. And mental health disabilities versus physical health disabilities across the board, or have you ever thought about that?
But we'll have our limitations naturally, but we've already had employers come to us, software developers, for example. Okay, they want us to provide them with people with highly complex disabilities, non-verbal, have to talk through machines and what have you. Okay, to do the testing of their software. Okay, you and I can't do that because we don't have that disability, so only they can do that. So there is a need for different types of disabilities in different situations. Our use case example is only for those that actually want to do agency recruitment and have the skill sets where we can make it work.
No, of course. I'm just saying, you can have someone maybe that has got certain decent level of anxiety, but you could so utilize them, and someone with ADHD that could be absolutely brilliant for you. So I think it can be physical and mental. But certainly, I think the way you said it is true. There are certain limitations, some things we can't work with, and I agree with you. And you have every right. If you were to make it work, you have, commercially speaking, meaning standing on its own feet in such a comparative world, you do have the right to be able to say, to start with, in the first year or two or three, that's the profiles we can work with, and that's the profiles that maybe we're not ready to work with. Nothing's wrong with that. I think it's fantastic.
And what we're trying to work with here is try to prevent that them and us situation, which they're very much aware of.
Yeah, you're right. That's the thing. It's them and us, yeah.
And what it comes back to is what we've been talking about the whole time here, is we've just got different skill sets.
Yeah.
That's it. They're going to be fantastic, individually speaking.
What an amazing mission, man. I really, really envy you. This is fantastic. I really wish you all the very best with that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
It's such a worthy cause.
Watch this space.
Yeah, I really wish you all the best. Listen, is there anything else you want to share, or maybe we should just end it? I felt that I've learned tons from you. I really appreciate your time, man.
I've enjoyed this. I've learned from yourself too, and this is the first time we've mentioned that project, by the way. So this is the first time openly we've become accountable. So I hope you do hold me accountable.
Yeah, man. I tell you what, I really wish you all the best, and it was really nice to meet you. Thank you, everyone. We'll leave it at that. Appreciate it.
Brilliant.